When you look at the long arc of history, there are some stories that just feel bigger, more epic. Today, we're diving into one of those, the incredible saga of the Mewar Dynasty. It's a story of pure defiance, of survival against all odds, and a spirit that just refused to be broken for nearly 1,500 years.
Yeah, just let that number sink in for a second. 1,400 years. That's not a typo. While massive empires rose, conquered the world, and then crumbled into dust, this one single royal line in India just kept going. It is, without a doubt, one of the longest ruling dynasties in the history of the world.
So that leads to the big question, right? How on earth did they do it? What was their secret sauce? It certainly wasn't just good luck. It was this powerful mix of a deeply rooted identity, a willingness to sacrifice everything, and just sheer stubborn grit. So let's get into it and try to figure out how they pulled it off.
All right, so every legend has an origin story, and Mewar's is no different. It all begins in the rugged Aravalli Hills, and it's here, in this tough landscape, that the core of their identity was really forged.
Now, this is a really interesting distinction to make. You've got two founders. The first is Guaditya. Think of him as the one who planted the seed way back in the 6th century. But then you get Bapa Rawal. He's considered the real founder. Why? Because in 734, he's the one who conquers the mighty Chittor fort. And that fort, that becomes the very heart of the kingdom. He's the one who turned a clan into a kingdom.
So here's the thing. Mewar's strength wasn't just about military might. It was built on something much deeper. First, they called themselves the Hindua Suraj, the son of the Hindus. That's a huge statement of purpose. Second, and get this, the rulers didn't even consider themselves the true kings. The real king was their deity, Iklingji. They were just his prime ministers, or diwans. And this last part is just brilliant strategy. Every new ruler's coronation had to be blessed by a local Bhil chieftain. This sealed a vital alliance with the people who knew the land better than anyone, ensuring their loyalty for centuries to come.
Look, you don't last for 14 centuries without facing some serious challenges. But Mewar faced tests that would have absolutely obliterated any other kingdom. We're going to look at 3 of these moments, 3 great trials that really defined who they were. Okay, trial number 1. We're in the year 1303. The Delhi Sultanate, a massive empire led by the ambitious Ala-ad-Din Khilji, has laid siege to Chittor Fort itself. The odds are completely stacked against Mewar. Defeat looks like an absolute certainty. And when faced with that certainty, the defenders, led by Rawal Ratan Singh, did something truly unimaginable. They perform Saka. This is an act of ultimate resistance. It has 2 parts. The men perform Kesariya, they put on saffron robes and ride out one last time, knowing full well they will not return. At the same time, the women, led by Rani Padmini, commit Jauhar, choosing death by fire over capture and dishonor. It's a harrowing, powerful display of their values.
All right, let's jump forward about 200 years for trial number 2. There's a new power in town, the Mughals, led by Babur. So in 1527, Mewar's ruler, the great Rana Sanga, does something that was basically unheard of. He manages to unite all the rival Rajput kingdoms into one massive army to face this threat together.
And this battle, the Battle of Kanwa, was a total clash of 2 different worlds. On one side, you've got Rana Sanga's traditional massive Rajput confederacy. On the other side, Babur has a smaller army, but he's brought the future of warfare with him: cannons, gunpowder, and sophisticated new tactics. And even though Rana Sanga's alliance was defeated in the end, the very act of uniting so many rivals became legendary, a symbol of what could be possible. And that brings us to our third, and maybe the most famous trial of all. The Mughal Empire is now at the absolute height of its power under Emperor Akbar. Pretty much every other Rajput state has bent the knee, but one man, Maharana Partap of Mewar, flat out refuses. His story becomes the ultimate tale of the lone warrior standing against a colossal empire. So after the bloody Battle of Haldigati in 1576, you'd think it was over. Pratap had to retreat into the hills. But for him, that wasn't the end, it was the beginning of a new phase. For almost a decade, he waged a brilliant guerrilla war, becoming a constant thorn in the side of the mighty Mughals. And here's the incredible part: it worked. By the end of his life, he had taken back almost all of his kingdom. It's one of history's greatest comeback stories. But it's so important to understand that the story of Mewar isn't just about battles and defiance. They weren't just warriors.
they were also phenomenal builders, and they left behind a legacy that you can still see and touch today, carved right into stone.
And there's no one who embodies this better than Rana Kumbha. The guy was a true military genius, defeating powerful neighboring sultanates. And to celebrate a major victory, he built the spectacular Vijay Stump, the Tower of Victory. At the same time, he was a master builder, responsible for 32 of Mewar's forts, including the enormous Kumbhalgarh, which has a wall so long it's second only to the Great Wall of China. The man was a true force of nature.
You know, if you had to boil down their entire ethos into one short phrase, this would be it. Visham Gati Panchananan, the lion in treacherous times. I love that. It was a title given to Rana Hamir, the man who brought the dynasty back from the brink after that first devastating siege. It ended up perfectly describing their defining trait, an incredible resilience no matter how bad things got. Of course, the world keeps changing, and nothing can stay the same forever. After centuries of fighting for fierce independence, the world around Mewar began to transform, and the dynasty had to find a new way to carry on.
This transition into the modern world didn't happen all at once. It was a journey in stages. First, in 1615, they finally made an honorable peace with the Mughals. Then, 2 centuries later, they entered into an alliance with the British. And finally, in 1948, as India became an independent nation, the Maharaja of Mewar chose to merge his state into the Indian Union, ending one chapter of their story to begin a new one.
So what's the legacy here? What do we take away from this epic tale? Well, Mewar will always be this incredible symbol of defiance, of what it means to fight for your home and your honor against impossible odds. And the best part is that it's a living history. It's preserved in the stunning forts and palaces you can still visit today. And really, we have to end with the words they lived by, their royal motto. Jo drid rakhe dharm ko, tahi rakhe kartar. It means, he who stands firm for dharma, for what is right, for his duty, is protected by the Creator. For them, this wasn't just a catchy phrase. It was their guiding principle. It's what fueled them through 1,400 years of trials and triumphs. It was the very source of their unconquered spirit.